Let us begin with pressure groups. This is a very important topic in government. It appears in your exams every single year. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the meaning of pressure groups, the types of pressure groups, the functions of pressure groups, the methods used by pressure groups, the differences between pressure groups and political parties, and how to answer exam questions. Take your notes. Let us go. First, what is a pressure group? A pressure group is an organized group of people who share common interests and seek to influence government policy without themselves seeking political power. Pressure groups are also called interest groups or lobby groups. They do not contest elections. They do not try to form a government. Instead, they try to persuade those in power to make decisions that benefit their members. Pressure groups are an important part of democracy. They allow citizens to organize and express their views between elections. They provide a channel for communication between the people and the government. Pressure groups are different from political parties. Political parties seek to win elections and control government. Pressure groups only want to influence the government. Political parties have broad platforms that cover many issues. Pressure groups focus on specific issues. Political parties are accountable to voters. Pressure groups are accountable only to their members. Political parties nominate candidates. Pressure groups do not. Now let me explain the types of pressure groups. Pressure groups can be classified in several ways. The first classification is by their purpose. Promotional groups, also called cause groups, promote a particular cause that benefits society as a whole, not just their members. Examples include environmental groups like Greenpeace, human rights groups like Amnesty International, and anti-corruption groups. These groups advocate for issues that affect everyone. Their members may not benefit directly from the cause. They join because they believe in the cause. The second type is protective groups. Protective groups, also called interest groups, protect the economic interests of their members. Their members benefit directly from the group's activities. Examples include trade unions that protect workers' rights, employers' associations that protect business owners, professional associations like the Nigerian Bar Association and the Nigerian Medical Association, and farmers' groups like the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Protective groups are very common. They fight for better wages, working conditions, prices, and regulations. Pressure groups can also be classified by their relationship with government. Insider groups have close access to government. They are consulted regularly by policymakers. They have influence because of their expertise or because they represent important constituencies. Outsider groups do not have regular access to government. They may be excluded because they are too radical or because their cause is unpopular. They must use protests and public campaigns to get attention. Another classification is by their method. Some groups use peaceful methods like lobbying, persuasion, and negotiation. Others use more confrontational methods like strikes, boycotts, and demonstrations. Some groups use both methods depending on the situation. Now let me explain the functions of pressure groups. Pressure groups serve several important functions in a democracy. The first function is representation. Pressure groups represent the interests of their members. They give voice to workers, business owners, professionals, farmers, and other groups. Without pressure groups, these voices might not be heard. The second function is participation. Pressure groups provide a way for citizens to participate in politics between elections. Citizens can join groups, attend meetings, and campaign for causes they believe in. This keeps democracy active. The third function is education. Pressure groups educate their members and the public about issues. They publish reports, hold meetings, and run advertising campaigns. They help people understand complex policy issues. The fourth function is agenda setting. Pressure groups bring issues to the attention of the government. They can make a problem seem urgent. They can force the government to act. The fifth function is scrutiny. Pressure groups monitor the government. They expose corruption, inefficiency, and abuse of power. They hold the government accountable even when elections are far away. The sixth function is expertise. Pressure groups have specialized knowledge about their areas of interest. Governments often consult them when making policy. The groups provide valuable information and analysis. The seventh function is policy formulation. In some cases, pressure groups help write laws. They draft proposals and submit them to legislators. They can have a direct impact on policy outcomes. The eighth function is social integration. Pressure groups bring people together around common causes. They build community and social capital. They help to integrate diverse groups into the political system. Now let me explain the methods used by pressure groups. Pressure groups use a variety of methods to influence government. The first method is lobbying. Lobbying is direct contact with government officials to persuade them to support the group's position. Lobbyists meet with legislators, ministers, and civil servants. They present arguments, provide information, and try to build relationships. Lobbying is the most common method used by insider groups. The second method is publicity and propaganda. Pressure groups use the media to shape public opinion. They issue press releases, hold press conferences, and run advertising campaigns. They try to make their cause popular. When public opinion is on their side, the government is more likely to listen. The third method is consultation. Many pressure groups have formal relationships with government agencies. The government asks for their views on proposed policies. The groups submit written evidence and attend meetings. This is a routine part of policymaking. The fourth method is strikes and industrial action. Trade unions often use strikes to pressure employers and the government. Workers stop working to demand better wages or conditions. Strikes can disrupt the economy. This gives the group leverage. The fifth method is demonstrations and protests. Pressure groups organize marches, rallies, and demonstrations. They try to show that many people support their cause. Large protests can attract media attention and force the government to respond. The sixth method is civil disobedience. This involves deliberately breaking the law to protest an unjust policy. Examples include sit-ins, blocking roads, and refusing to pay taxes. Civil disobedience is risky. Participants may be arrested, but it can draw attention to an issue and create pressure for change. The seventh method is boycotts. Pressure groups encourage people not to buy certain products or use certain services. Boycotts hurt the profits of companies, forcing them to change their practices. The eighth method is litigation. Pressure groups take cases to court. They challenge laws or government actions that they believe are harmful. A successful court case can change policy for everyone. The ninth method is financial support. Some pressure groups donate money to political parties or candidates. They hope that the politicians they support will represent their interests. This is controversial because it can look like buying influence. The 10th method is forming alliances. Pressure groups often work together with other groups that share similar goals. A coalition of groups can have more influence than a single group. Now let me explain the differences between pressure groups and political parties. This is a very important distinction for your exam. Political parties seek to win elections and control government. Pressure groups only want to influence the government. Political parties nominate candidates for office. Pressure groups do not. Political parties have broad platforms that cover many issues. Pressure groups focus on specific issues. Political parties are accountable to voters. Pressure groups are accountable only to their members. Political parties can form a government. Pressure groups cannot. Political parties have a formal structure and membership. Pressure groups can be formal or informal. Political parties are regulated by electoral laws. Pressure groups are regulated by different laws. Political parties are a permanent feature of democracy. Some pressure groups are temporary. They form around a specific issue and disband when the issue is resolved. Understanding these differences is essential for your exam. Now let me explain pressure groups in Nigeria. Nigeria has many pressure groups. Trade unions include the Nigeria Labour Congress, or NLC, which represents workers across the country. The Trade Union Congress, or TUC, is another major labour group. Professional associations include the Nigerian Bar Association, or NBA, which represents lawyers. The Nigerian Medical Association, or NMA, represents doctors. The Nigerian Union of Teachers, or NUT, represents teachers. Business groups include the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, or NACSEMA, which represents business owners. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, or MAN, represents manufacturers. Student groups include the National Association of Nigerian Students, or NANS, which represents university and college students. Religious groups include the Christian Association of Nigeria, or CAN, and the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, or NSCIA. These groups often speak out on political issues. Ethnic and regional groups include Afenifere for the Yoruba, Ohanese and Digbo for the Igbo, and Arewa Consultative Forum for the Hausa Fulani. These groups advocate for their regions. Pressure groups in Nigeria use various methods. The NLC has called many strikes to protest fuel price increases and minimum wage issues. NANS has protested against university closures and fee increases. CAN and NSCIA have spoken out on religious issues and political appointments. These groups have significant influence on government policy. A common exam question asks you to define pressure groups and explain their functions. Here is a sample answer. A pressure group is an organized group that seeks to influence government policy without seeking political power. The functions of pressure groups include representation of their members, participation in politics between elections, education of the public, setting the political agenda, scrutiny of government, provision of expertise, policy formulation, and social integration. These functions make pressure groups an important part of democracy. Another exam question asks you to distinguish between pressure groups and political parties. Here is your answer. Political parties seek to win elections and control government. Pressure groups only seek to influence government. Political parties nominate candidates. Pressure groups do not. Political parties have broad platforms. Pressure groups focus on specific issues. Political parties are accountable to voters. Pressure groups are accountable to their members. Political parties can form a government. Pressure groups cannot. Another exam question asks you to describe the methods used by pressure groups. Here is your answer. Pressure groups use lobbying, publicity, and propaganda, consultation, strikes, demonstrations and protests, civil disobedience, boycotts, litigation, financial support, and forming alliances. Different groups use different methods depending on their resources, their access to government, and the nature of the issue. Insider groups prefer lobbying and consultation. Outsider groups may resort to protests and civil disobedience. Another exam question asks you to identify examples of pressure groups in Nigeria. Here is your answer. Examples of pressure groups in Nigeria include the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC), the Trade Union Congress (TUC), the Nigerian Bar Association (NBA), the Nigerian Medical Association (NMA), the Nigerian Union of Teachers (NUT), the National Association of Nigerian Students (NANS), the Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN), the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs (NSCIA), Afenifere, Ohanaeze Ndigbo, and the Arewa Consultative Forum. These groups represent workers, professionals, students, religious communities, and ethnic groups. Here is what you need to take away. Pressure groups are organized groups that seek to influence government policy without seeking power. They can be promotional or protective, insider or outsider. Their functions include representation, participation, education, agenda setting, scrutiny, expertise, policy formulation, and integration. Their methods include lobbying, publicity, consultation, strikes, protests, civil disobedience, boycotts, litigation, financial support, and alliances. Pressure groups are different from political parties. They do not contest elections. Nigeria has many pressure groups, including labor unions, professional associations, student groups, religious groups, and ethnic groups. Understanding pressure groups is essential for understanding how policy is made in a democracy. Practice these concepts. When you have them down, move to topic 8.